It's your boy Tipp and Greg Kellogg. What's going on today?
Well, I'm looking for the thing I sent you earlier in the week, so take it away, Tipp.
All right, Greg. Well, look, so we are at the Sports Affiliation. We are excited to be on here every Thursday with you guys before the games. We want to bring positivity to the community. We want to bring a like-minded mindset when it comes to winning your fantasy football leagues, and that's why Greg and I are here. And these weeks, what we're doing in the regular season is we're bringing on a pro and we're bringing on a Joe. And you guys won't believe where I met the Joe last week. I'll tell you a little bit about the story on that. But we definitely got our pro in here. It's Nick Wilcox. Bring up Nick up to the stage. Let's get him on here. What up, Nick?
What up, yo?
Oh, man. I met this guy at the Fantasy Football Expo. Nick, just talk to us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you got going on.
Well, I'm a champ in the making, as you see on the tag. Anyway, I'm from Connecticut, and I've been playing fantasy football since 2008, and I've just been loving every minute of it. Sometimes the highs and the lows are the lows. But besides season long, I also do DFS content. I've been doing, content for the last couple of years in various spaces. And, what I love about this community most is really just getting with like-minded people, like you said, Tipp. Like, it's always great to get along and to say what you need to say when it comes to fantasy football. Plant your flag is what I say. Plant your flag on what you think is going to happen. And if you look foolish while doing it, cool. But when it pays off and you're winning championships and you're sticking it to people's faces, like, it's honestly the best part.
Well, you know what? Champ in the making. You better win a championship this week.
I better will. You and I play each other in the cookout league this week, so it's about to be fun.
Hey, Greg, what's going on?
Nick, one thing that you know who Bob Lung is because you've been to the expo. I told Bob a lot of people tend to not want to go to the FF Expo because it's a fantasy thing, and a lot of football fans don't play fantasy, although over 60 million do this year.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And what I told Bob is that every fantasy football discussion, first and foremost, is an NFL discussion. We're talking about players. We're passionate about players. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's just nothing else that's better in my mind. Would you tell people that they should go to the expo, whether they're in fantasy or not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, it's a great look. First time going this past season. I really wanted to go last year. Got a chance to finally do it this year. And boy, I tell you, whether you're in fantasy football or not, it's a great place to come together, gather around with people who love the game, who love talking about the game, and literally just having a great time. I literally lost my voice there. So take that for what you will.
We'll go ahead and let you rest your voice then, since you're going to have a lot of talking to do later on with some of these players to sit, players to start, and also this day in history as well. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to bring on the next guy. The next guy that we're going to bring on is Connor. I met Connor last weekend. I actually was doing an Uber, and I lifted him to I said Uber and Lyft. I got them both in there. But I lifted him over to the airport, and he was out there with his buddy. They were going to go watch a game, I believe a Penn State game or maybe an SMU game. I don't know. They both had the same shirts from that team. But look, Connor, talk to the people. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in fantasy football, and how many leagues did you say you were in again?
Hey, Tipp. Yeah, great to be on. So I'm in 31 leagues. So I met Tipp last week going to the SMU TCU game, which was awesome. Rivalry game, and the TCU coach got ejected, former SMU coach. So that's the best case scenario, right? You win by 20, 24, and the coach gets ejected. Fired up to be here, guys, and looking forward to it.
Wow, man, I can't wait. And you know what, Greg? I want to go ahead and get to you next. We're going to talk about this AI platform that we got going on here, that this AI platform has done really well. And then this AI platform has, last week, they didn't do so well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, Greg. But first, can you tell us a little bit about the company the AI platform is coming from?
Connor Ludlow runs the company. We deal with a guy named Ronnie A. Evans, who is our personal sports affiliation AI expert. And he hooked me up with Connor. And so basically they have a paid service where for $9.99 a month, you can use the AI. And you can use it for a variety of things. But before I recommend anybody purchase anything, I want to prove is it as good as the experts? Now, I've often said, and Tipp will verify this, the best of the best in fantasy sports are wrong 40% of the time. Understand what I'm saying. Most of them don't track their projections, because you're wrong 40% of the time, but that means you're right 60% of the time. You make a lot of money being right 60% of the time. So basically, I want the AI to return at least a 60% return, and then I'll recommend it. It's $60 a year or $9.99 a month. And what we did was the first week we asked 3 running backs that were ranked right near each other, and it basically ranked them in order for us. Then last week we did 3 wide receivers, and it basically had number 2 right, but number 1 and number 3 got switched because of injury. Because of injuries, nobody can predict that. So I don't discredit. This time we went with 3 tight ends, and I have to apologize. I'm on vacation in Atlanta, so
I got them for you, Greg. I'll pick you up. I got you from here. We got Mike Gesicki, Dalton Kincaid, and Zach Ertz. All of these guys are within 3 to 4 ranges of each other as far as the rankings go. And look, the tight end position right now, I think we can all agree is in shambles. We got guys like Dallas Goedert getting points. We got guys like last week we saw Dalton Kincaid finally get himself in the end zone, finally have a productive game. So the tight end situation right now, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, hello, where you guys been? So
some guy named Strange.
Some guy named Strange.
Strange is Strange.
Right. You got Dr. Strange over there catching passes in the end zone. And so the situation that we got going on right now with the tight end situation, I want to hear what the AI has to say this week. Iggy, what did Sir Whittington have to say? You guys got to hear this accent, by the way. What does Sir Whittington have to say?
Start Dalton Kincaid for week 4. He offers the best combination of projected points, consistent involvement, and potential for a breakout game. If you need a backup or secondary option, Mike Gesicki is a good choice, but be cautious of his reduced workload with T. Higgins' return. Avoid starting Zach Ertz unless you have no other viable options.
Now, there's a lot more to it than that. And normally we would just post it into the chat, but I can't find it right now. And the person I sent it to apparently can't find it either.
Who was it? It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't Nick. It wasn't Nick. And it wasn't Sully. But no, we have fun with this. And I'll find it and I'll get it out there probably on the sports affiliation website. So you'll have to go to or the Discord. Maybe we'll put it on the sports affiliation Discord and you can go in and check it there.
All right. Yeah. So that right there in itself, the AI, again, last week, they dealt with some injuries. Do any of you guys have any rebuttal against what the AI or Sir Whittington just said? You guys are in agreement with Dalton Kincaid being?
Yeah, I think Dalton Kincaid has like the AI said, has the best opportunity to have a breakout. Dalton Kincaid finally had a touchdown. It's going to be a close game, projected wise, game script wise for Buffalo and Baltimore for Sunday Night Football. You're expecting Dalton Kincaid to at least get you, if you're talking about full-point PPR, at least 10 points in a matchup where, again, the Ravens end up doing what they should be doing, which is potentially getting a lead. Buffalo could be playing from behind, and that should definitely get some check down work to Kincaid and eventually potentially have 1, maybe 2 touchdowns. So
you're telling me one of the hottest offenses in the league right now, the Buffalo Bills, could potentially be behind in this game?
Oh, yeah. Baltimore is everything right now, even though they are, 1-2. The Dallas game showcased that they can not only just run the football, but they can control a whole game for at least 3.5 quarters. Now, until the 4th quarter, we'll have to see. But the Ravens at least, had an opportunity to showcase what they can do.
So you think they found something? You think they found something last week?
I think they finally did, offensive line-wise, because we all talked about the Ravens' offensive line coming into the game that who knows. And then Dallas, they could barely stop a nosebleed, and that showed throughout the whole game too. So I think the Ravens did finally find something. Is it fixed? No. I think they found a few things that they did like, though, and you could just tell because Lamar ran through the ball 18 times. So I think the Ravens definitely found some type of recipe.
I don't know if I saw Connor scratching his head there.
I've got to ask Connor something.
Yeah,
Connor,
hit me.
The second thing they said was Gesicki is potential, but you got to worry about T. Higgins coming back. And I want to ask you, do you agree with that? Is Gesicki time to go back to the bench? Because he's been a top 10 tight end early this year. What do you think?
So I'm not too worried about Gesicki. If you need to play him, I get it. When you look at receivers coming back, you look at Ayuk, who sat out kind of all the preseason with the contract stuff. Ayuk's looked pretty bad, right? And then Higgins comes in and immediately has an impact. I think T. Higgins is fine, and I think that's a hold on the offense. Additionally, he doesn't have the tight end room to himself. You have to worry about Eric All, who was a factor in the Chiefs game, had 32 yards.
Where did he go to college?
Oh, so God. Eric All went to Cincinnati.
Michigan.
Michigan. That's right. Michigan and Iowa. Yeah. But then flipping.
They do that every time I mention that word.
God.
I know it gets old.
Flipping to Ertz, though, the thing I worry about with Ertz is the Commanders' offense has scored on every possession 2 of the first 3 games.
Yeah.
That's not going to continue, right? And I know a lot of those ended in field goals, and a lot of those weren't touchdown opportunities for Ertz. But I don't see that continuing, and it seemed like he found something with McLaurin there in that most recent game. And Ertz only had 5 for 38, right? So if that's kind of his ceiling when they're moving the ball well, I don't love that. I don't love that in fantasy. I'd rather have a guy like Gesicki, so I agree with the AI.
The only thing I didn't hear you talk about, Connor, was Andre Yoshivas and him being a factor in that red zone too, man. I mean, this kid, Princeton kid, I already know he's got the brains. Don't worry, he's there. But Joe Burrow has shown a trust in him, with not having T. Higgins in the lineup the last couple of weeks, so now you have a situation where he trusts Andre Yoshivas. They build the chemistry last year and during training camp. So, yeah, that's also taken away from him as well. And now Joe Burrow's got T. Higgins, who's also a red zone threat, and Andre Yoshivas, who he's been targeting in the red zone. So, yeah, it might be slim pickings for Gesicki. And you mentioned Eric All as well. That was beautiful how you
don't forget
that.
Chase Brown is a good receiver out of the backfield.
Very good receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah.
All right. So our next segment that we're going to is our mailbag segment. All right. First of all, that saxophone right there, man. I think we're gonna have to get something going with some drums, some trumpets. That saxophone's got to go because it's not my jam right there.
Sax is cool. Sax is cool.
Well, I will say
said something else.
At the sports affiliation, we are about
all the great soul bands. All the great soul bands of the 60s and 70s had sax. All of them.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Definitely Earth, Wind, and Fire.
All right.
Temptations had a sax in the background.
Connor's got one on the tip of his tongue. Who's the band that you're thinking of?
I got nobody, guys.
Chicago. Come on.
Herb Albert.
So, here at the sports affiliation, like I said, we are about the community. We are about answering questions, helping people out. And we've got several different questions from our mailbags this week alone, but we can't read them all. Hopefully, if you guys get out there, go ahead and put your comments down as well, and we'll read those. But I got a question from you for you from Vince, and I'm going to ask you, our resident pro, Nick. Do you like trading J.K. Dobbins for Tank Dell and Jameson Williams?
Oh yeah, that is a slam dunk. Here's why. I know running back is very innuendo right now when it comes to there's some guys definitely at the top, there's some guys definitely producing, and there's just guys we're just flexing every week. But this is totally worth it if you have Dobbins. You're gonna guy in Tank Dell who, yes, he hasn't been as utilized these last couple of weeks. Finally got going a little bit towards the end of this whole blowout. Who saw that coming? Minnesota blowing out Houston. I didn't see that coming.
JC saw it coming.
But either way, I mean, Tank Dell still had a decent, game overall. And I think that was enough to at least, garner this. JMO, yes, he's more, Jekyll and Hyde. But he's still going to be a very utilized receiver in this Detroit offense, in which They're going to run the first ball, and then they're going to try to get him deep. Just like kind of like Shaheed a little bit, but I would say a little bit better than Shaheed because they can still get him as far as a possession receiver when they're not getting him on Ross A. Brown or LaPorta. So getting both of these receivers where they have a great outlook, I think, moving forward. I just don't see Dobbins getting more than like 17 touches a game. And so far, that's been the case. And he's been awesome. But the Chargers haven't played any great run defenses until last week against the Steelers, which, again, look what Dobbins did. Look what Gus Edwards did. So I don't buy Dobbins as being the guy that we should keep moving forward. If we get a great trade offer like this one, like Takedown and JMO, like you would ideally probably want a running back in this trade. I still would want to do this trade because Dobbins to me is someone that will give us a nice, decent floor against teams that are iffy against the run. But when it comes to playing, from behind, Dobbins, I just don't see the ceiling moving forward like we've been seeing.
Okay, the thing with Dobbins is most likely he had picked up Dobbins in the draft late. So if you picked him up late in the draft, he probably has some other really good running backs on this team already. He just, lucked out and Dobbins is doing what Dobbins has done other than last week. So, there's chances are that, these wide receivers could boost him up. I think we got to check on Tank Dell, though. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was dealing with an injury. So we do need to check on Tank Dell. But other than that, Jameson Williams is a guy that I've been targeting heavily in the offseason.
Oh, you have been? I could have sworn on one of your spaces I told JMO was going to be a sleeper of the year. But
you probably said that, but you didn't get the arguments from me.
This year. I told him
he didn't get the arguments from me.
You sure? You said it wasn't spicy enough. Spicy enough.
Oh, it wasn't spicy. Oh no, your take wasn't spicy enough, but I like JMO.
I would not do this trade. I would not do this trade because you can pick up Kamani Vidal for when J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. You can pick up.
Greg, don't say that.
Hold on. You can do that trade and still get by.
Where's my sage?
Yeah, but you don't know that he's going to be any. He's no value until J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. Bottom line is you're trading away a top 10 running back to get a wide receiver 2. That's what JMO is, at best, a wide receiver 2. And Tank Dell is a wide receiver 3 right now. Right now, Diggs and Collins are the Houston receivers. I won't do it. I won't do it. Running back.
I get that, but Nico and Diggs is not set in stone. In this
no, but if you give me Nico,
whoa. Nico is definitely set in stone.
Diggs, if you give me Nico instead of Dell with JMO, I'll do it. Nico and JMO, I'll do for Dobbins, but not Tank Dell.
Of course you would.
No, I would not.
Of course, that's a lopsided trade.
Well, it is. It's
a
not
lopsided trade at that point.
It is a lopsided trade. Well, Nico and JMO's a lopsided trade.
Yeah. That'd be a lopsided trade.
Since you heard from all three of us, let's ask Connor. Connor is a Texans fan, if I'm not mistaken. What are your thoughts on this trade?
Let me ask you, why are you going to Kamani Vidal instead of Gus Edwards?
Because Gus Edwards is 33. He's sharing the touches now almost evenly, and he's not doing anything with it. And he's not doing anything with it.
So that's why I would take Dobbins in this trade, and I'll get into the Tank Dell piece. Gus Edwards this year, there are 40 running backs that have taken 25 or more touches. Gus Edwards is last in the NFL in broken tackles.
He stinks.
0 missed tackles on the year.
Garbage.
Now they also have Hassan Haskins there, and he's a strong runner. Well, he's a strong runner. He is a strong runner, but he's got no wiggle. I mean, I watched him at that university that I want to bring up, but he's got no wiggle at all. So I think Kamani. I've said since the beginning of the year, Kamani Vidal will be starting. I thought it'd be by week 4 because I didn't think Dobbins had anything left. But Dobbins has played well, and as long as he's healthy, he will continue to play. But if he gets hurt, like he's done the last 3 years in a row, then I think Kamani Vidal is the answer, not Haskins. So that's why I said Kamani.
See, I love. Oh no, go ahead, Connor, because you wanted to talk about Tank Dell. That's right.
Well, so I wouldn't do the trade, right? Because I would want to keep Dobbins. I think Dobbins has a handle on this backfield, and when you're already looking past Gus Edwards to Vidal, then you just know how strong of a hold he's got on that backfield, right? And Harbaugh wants to run the ball, and you drafted Joe Alt in front of Neighbors and those other guys, right? He wants to run the ball, and Dobbins is the guy. Everybody's this offseason was trying to make Dobbins not the guy. His injury history, everything else. They brought over Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and when they were both healthy, Dobbins was the starter, right? So he wants to play Dobbins, and I would keep Dobbins. And then if you look over to the other side of the trade, Tank Dell has been kind of an inconsistent performer to what you guys were saying. Greg, I think you said he was a wide receiver 3 at best, right? Yeah. He gave you 3 weeks last year of 100 yards and touchdown, 1 week with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and all the other weeks were trash. He had 1 week with 72 yards, and everything else was 50, 30, 20 yards, inconsistent.
Very boomer bust.
I'm telling you, Sully, you got to meet Bob Lung. You have to meet Bob Lung. Bob publishes a book on consistency, and he would agree with you totally.
And here's the book right here, everybody. It's right here for your looking pleasure. Go ahead and get the book, cop it, get it right now. So we're going to go to the next person. And one thing I do want to say, guys, is whenever you're asking these questions, please let us kind of know a little bit of what your team is looking like, what the format is. Is it PPR? Things like that. Like Trevor, who asked question number 2, did a really good job with this one. He said, should I trade away Tank Dell, coming up again, for Braylon Allen? He says, I'm in dire need of a running back. On my bench, he has Bigsby, Chase Brown, and Gus Edwards, who we just talked about. I also have wide receiver depth. I have depth at wide receiver, though. His wide receivers are pretty nice. He has Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaden Reed, and T. Higgins. So I'm going to ask you, Connor, on this one. Would you trade away Tank Dell for Braylon Allen, who's only getting a 30% snap percentage playing at least last week? But
yeah, I wouldn't.
What are you doing in that case?
And the reason why is that fantasy football is about hammers, and right now Tank Dell is not necessarily a hammer. He's the third option in the offense. But if somebody goes down, that's an awesome offense, and you want to be along awesome offenses in fantasy, right? If Diggs or Collins goes down, Tank Dell's a smash start every week. He's a guy who you can plug in and be a consistent performer. Braylon Allen is, you basically need Breece Hall to go down to make him week to week valuable. He's had the touchdown.
How's that different than Tank Dell? They both need somebody to go down to be a week to week option.
One's in a much more competent offense than the other, right? So I'd rather be along the Texans offense than. And I think sometimes people worry too much about the balance of their team. Am I strong at receiver? Am I strong at running back? Can I just even it all out? I think that the trade value of Tank Dell is higher than Braylon Allen, so I would hold out for a better offer. I think the most common trade is that wide receiver for running back in fantasy, the 1-for-1. That's the easiest to get done. But selling him for Braylon Allen right now, it's too early for Braylon Allen. It's kind of like you're buying Braylon Allen super high off the touchdowns. The touches aren't there. Breece Hall is going to be a workhorse. And I don't want to own Braylon Allen unless there is a Breece Hall injury, right? So I would rather have Tank Dell. He gives you something. If one of your receivers does go down right now, he gives you something as the third guy in a great Texans offense. And if one of those guys does go down, he's going to be awesome.
And we got to look at his receiver depth, because essentially Tank Dell is his 5th receiver. And he's got Mike Evans, Amon-Ra, Reed, and Higgins. So I would possibly say I'm going to keep Tank Dell, deal with that, and maybe uptick it a little bit, maybe give away Jaden Reed, maybe give away Amon-Ra, because you can get more value for that. I don't recommend giving away Amon-Ra because he's Amon-Ra, right? But Higgins, one of those guys, Evans, giving up one of those guys is going to, I believe, give you more of a return than what Braylon Allen would right now. Now, if there was an injury to happen to Breece Hall, obviously Braylon Allen's stock and price would go way up. But yeah, I think that this right now for me is something that I'm not going to do. I'm holding on it because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't equal the draft capital that you spent on Tank Dell, and it doesn't equal that the amount of playing time that Braylon Allen is or the lack of playing time that he's getting. Again, 30% has been a little over 30% has been his highest snap percentage. So that's just not enough for me to give away a guy who is boomer bust. But again, a guy that's your 5th wide receiver, you may not even be playing him. I understand the running back depth for him is bad, but I think that he can get one of those other receivers away and maybe even get a better running back. You got anything, Nick? Any rebuttal? Anything that you heard? Or
no, that was the easy one. I mean, look, like we're not trading Tank Dell for Braylon Allen.
Yeah.
much as I'm a Jets fan, how much I love Braylon Allen right now, we're not doing that trade if we have Tank Dell. Look, I get Tank Dell has been inconsistent, whatever. He still has a phenomenal rapport with CJ Stroud. This offense through the air is still one of the best in the league currently, even though they just had a bad game against Minnesota. Like, I still believe in Tank Dell, and we should not be trading them for someone that we just got off the waiver wire. Like, come on.
So, Nick, let me ask you this. If you were going to trade him for a rookie running back, would you consider dealing him with that team with those other 4 receivers for Bucky Irving?
Yeah, that's potential, but I would still say no. I think what you want right now is even though the running back position isn't as like best for this team, I still love the wide receiver depth you have here because any of these guys could potentially be high-end wide receiver 2 on a weekly basis. Tank Dell, again, more inconsistent, but I would still rock with him, and I would still fetch a better trade for a better running back, at least for a potentially safer running back, if anything else. Like
Nick,
Tipp was saying, I would take – go ahead.
What if you could start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and just 1 flex?
Would that change my answer?
Yeah.
And sorry, as far as like trading? Well, yeah. I mean, I would love to see what I could get for Jayden Reed. I'd love to see what I can get for Tank Dell instead of Bucky Irving or Braylon Allen, because you would want someone that still wants to produce better as an RB2. Like, go out and grab Tank Dell for Aaron Jones. Go out and grab Tank Dell for potentially take Amon-Ra and go trade him for seeing what the Bijan owners doing. Maybe they're scared of his injury this week. So it all depends. A lot of this stuff is all context based on your league as well. Like if you're 1-2 and you need to make this move, I still wouldn't make this move just yet because I still want to see what I can get. But if you're a 3-0 team with this problem, I'm not concerned about this problem yet. So if you're 0-3, you're a little desperate, but I would say let's hold on that still because you still want a better player that you could start on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, no, I think that we all had really good points in there. For the sake of time, we're not going to read the 3rd one. We're going to skip to the 4th one because it's a little quicker. So, Artie, I owe you one, bro. I will get to you. I promise you I'll get to you. I'll DM you the answer on that one. But this one here is from Rebecca. This one is Rachaad White or for George Pickens. It's a full point PPR. Would you do that trade?
Yes.
If I have Rachaad White?
She has Rachaad White, and somebody said that they'll send her George Pickens for Rachaad White.
Oh yeah, I'm smashing that.
It's easy, that. 2 weeks ago.
Hey, that's your guy, Rachaad White?
Yeah, no. Look, that's what I'm about to say. 2 weeks ago, that was my guy. That Rachaad White, where you were getting him in drafts, I had him as my the flex option. That I love that. I love that having him as that flex option for the running back position, but he's just proven again that the inefficiency is going to now catch up to him because you got a guy in Bucky Irving who we just talked about that is just electric when he gets on the field. He's averaging 7 carries per game per attempt, yards per attempt. It's crazy, man. Like it to me, it seems like a situation where we could see Bucky Irving chipping away into his role more earlier than what we thought. And it looks like a situation for Rachaad White where I'm now not even willing to put him in the starting lineup. He's got the groin injury. That's limiting him as well. The coaching staff already is starting to favor Bucky Irving a little bit. He's been more electric. He's been more of the guy with juice running the ball. I can't see myself doing this. And George Pickens, again, this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, we saw last week, 32 passing attempts for Justin Fields. This Steelers offense is about to open up. It's about to open up for Justin Fields. They brought him along the first 3 weeks. Now they're saying, look, we brought you along. Now let's see what we can build upon. We saw the Calvin Austin touchdown last week. We already seen what the connection that he has with George Pickens. George Pickens, by the way, man, is there anybody who can catch the ball prettier than George Pickens? Maybe Malik Neighbors. But when he catches some of these passes, they're insane. But I think you definitely go ahead and go for the George Pickens. And I think Greg and I think Connor would both agree. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So next place we're going to go is our commercial break. So we got to pay some bills. Appreciate you guys. Go ahead, Iggy.
Find your win tuition and elevate your sports betting with BettorTakes. BettorTakes examines your betting history to uncover hidden areas that cause bankroll leaks. Uncover patterns and biases so you can break the cycle of mistakes, avoid weaknesses, and play into your strengths. Our advanced stats offer unparalleled granularity, helping you immediately spot problem areas that could be affecting your success. Use the BettorTakes Edge score to gauge your expertise for each potential bet, providing clarity and confidence in your decisions. Take control of your betting journey. Download BettorTakes from the Apple App Store or Google Play today and start understanding your biases for free. Before placing bets, check with BettorTakes, a smarter, more informed approach to sports betting.
And we lost Tipp, and I don't know why.
I'm not lost. I'm here. I got thrown off for a sec, but I'm back in the house. But yeah, so every week, Greg and Nick and Connor, we talk about players that we should sit. Now, these players are starters, typically, people that are going to be inside the top 12, studs that. So the studs that you're going to play every week. But Greg has another theory on this. Greg, tell us your theory on that.
Well, I don't think anybody should always start or always sit. So anybody that tells you, any expert that tells you always start your studs, they're not an expert. Get away from them because they're lying to you. And we've got a great track record on this. Tipp can tell you how we've done so far this year, but we got to move along because generally this segment is done before we go to commercial break.
So the way we've done it with, so we've tracked the studs to sit, and last week we were 3-0-1. Disco actually had a push with Alvin Kamara, and for the whole year we're 8-2-2 so far. So we are sitting pretty nice right now as far as our track record. So Connor, you've got a lot of shoes to fill because I'm going to tell you right now, the last two Joes that we had Joe week 1, he predicted that you're going to sit Marvin Harrison Jr. That came true. And then last week, because our Joe on week 2 didn't show up till a little later, but last week we had our Joe recommend you sit Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard finished as the 40th ranked running back. So you got some shoes to fill, man. So hopefully you get this right. And you know what, Connor, we're going to start with you.
Yeah.
Tell us the stud to sit for week 4.
Yeah. So my stud to sit this week is Isaiah Likely. And frankly, I would consider dropping him depending on your format. I think he's the only viable tight end handcuff, but I don't think that on a week-to-week basis, you want to be starting him, and you don't necessarily want to be holding a tight end that is a handcuff. In games last year where Andrews played, he had 0.8 catches for 8.2 yards and no touchdowns. Of course, when Andrews got hurt, he averaged 3.5 catches, 53 yards, and he had a touchdown in 5 of 6 weeks. So it got the dynasty community excited. It got people in fantasy football excited. And then week 1 happens, and everyone's like, this is the guy. This is the moment. And I think the dynasty guys got super excited because they saw it coming. And the people who didn't know a lot were just like, this guy scored a lot of points. I need to add him. This should be my week 1 ad. And so he was a smash ad across many formats. And to be honest, he's had 2 duds. The following 2 weeks, he had 3 targets in week 2, and he had 1 target in week 3. And at this point, I think that, I'm not comfortable with either of the Ravens tight ends. If I was going to start one, it would still be Andrews. But we've seen his snap share on offense go from 66% week 1 to 49% week 2 and 62% week 3. So a slight dip there. And then additionally, the reason I picked it is because they also play the Bills. And so the Bills have only allowed 168.3 passing yards per game this year. They're sitting in a lot of covered 2 deep shell, and they're basically forcing you to run.
Not apparent to Nick. Nick thinks that the Baltimore Ravens are going to go out there and beat up some Bills' butt.
Well, think about what you just said, though. Think about what you just said, though. Zone defense, right? You got to run the ball against zone defense. Am I?
No, you do. And so fantasy running backs this year are averaging 7th most points against the Bills. Fantasy receivers, 28th most. So there's only 168.3 passing yards a game against the Bills. They're sitting in the deep shell. They're not allowing, deep looks. And frankly, they're kind of functioning Isaiah Likely as a wide receiver 2-3 option.
Just remember the last 2 games for Buffalo have been blowouts. Just remember that. I disagree. I think you should start Likely if you're in a pinch. And here's why. I think Baltimore is going to have to throw the ball at some point in this game, more than they had, especially last game. And Mark Andrews only had 1 target this past week. We are concerned about Mark Andrews for sure. And Likely, I'm not going to say he's going to have the week 1 performance that he had, but I think he's definitely startable in a landscape for tight end right now where we have no idea who's even the top 5 tight ends right now on a week-to-week basis.
So, Nick, let me ask you this question. What is the most catches anybody has had against Buffalo this year, or yards? It's the same person.
McBride, if I'm not certain. I think that's
Christian Kirk in blowout garbage
time.
time.
I thought you were talking about receiver.
So the tight end would be Jonnu Smith, 53 yards in week 2.
Okay. Yep.
So you're looking at just a week-to-week domination of receivers and tight ends. In week 1, the highest scoring guy, Greg Dortch, 10.7. Where was Marvin Harrison? 1.4. Where was your boy McBride? 8 points flat, right? So week by week, we've just absolutely – where was Tyreek Hill? 5.4. Waddle, 8.1. They have gone against some of the best – and I know Tua went down.
Buffalo defense been cooking. But I promise
you this. Tyreek Hill.
What's the stat line for Likely in this game? What's the stat
line? I would say 3 catches, 30 yards, no touchdown.
I'll take the over. Let's bet that.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. Moving on.
All right, Greg, tell us your stud to sit.
Okay, so think about this: 29.66, 18.80, and 8.52. What is that? That's what Baker Mayfield has scored the first 3 weeks of the season. Notice a trend?
Nope.
Eagles are allowing 205 passing yards per game. So they're allowing quarterbacks to cook a little bit, but they've faced Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr. These are all pretty good quarterbacks. Is Baker Mayfield of week 1 real, or is he an illusion? I'm saying he's an illusion. He will not reach top 12 numbers this week.
Ooh. You got anything to say on that one, Nick?
What would be stat line for Baker Mayfield? I'd be curious on that.
I don't predict it, but if I were to say, I'd say he's probably going to get right around the 200 yards that they're giving up, maybe 1 touchdown, but also maybe 1 interception.
That's fair to say.
And he doesn't add anything on the ground, really.
No. Baker's not a runner.
No, Baker's not a runner, but he gets out of those situations where he looks like he's about to get sacked. He looks like, all hell's about to break loose, and he gets he throws the ball down the field to Mike Evans for a touchdown, for a long yardage. Chris Godwin right now is probably, I would say, the MVP for the wide receiver position. He's gone off every week so far. I think that him and Chris Godwin have this connection. Bucky Irving, Rashad White, they both can catch balls out of the backfield. I think that this is a scenario where I actually like Baker Mayfield, but I am tempering my expectations just a little bit because you are seeing him come down to earth just a bit. But yeah, I like the call on that one, Greg, because he has been hot and we're starting to see him pull off. All right, Nick, tell us yours.
Bucky Irving didn't practice today.
I just saw that. Yeah,
everybody's questionable today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jonathan Taylor. I think you should definitely, if you have to start him, like obviously you're starting him, but just don't expect like top 8 production, especially like from last week against the Chicago Bears. He went off against them. But in terms of Jonathan Taylor, the Steelers defense, like they are allowing in third down conversion rate, they're allowing the least in the league. They're allowing the 3rd fewest rush attempts in a game, and they're 2nd best allowed to rushing yards allowed. I just think Jonathan Taylor, he is a decent guy that you're probably starting. Just be careful of expectations. Like I expect him to be RB18 on the week, and that's not the best start. It just depends on who you got, but Jonathan Taylor is my sit for the week.
Nick, that will get you a tie in our scoring because he won't finish top 12, which would get you a loss. Okay. But he also won't finish outside the top 24.
Oh, yeah. I meant to ask that question for overall, like, what are we considering, as far as, like,
a tie is for a wide receiver or a running back, a tie is 13 to 24. Okay. And that's where Alvin Kamara finished last week, which I thought was a really gutsy call. I think you're making a really gutsy call.
Fair enough. I want to be a little spicy. I just think the Steelers defense have been playing lights out. It's the wrong.
Oh, they have. I agree. And I hate it because I have them. I've got Taylor starting, so I
can't wait to hear what Tipp has to say, though.
Okay.
No, look, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, Nick.
Please.
Your guy, Devon Achane, has been balling out. Okay, he has.
Not last week.
I will give it to you.
Last week was
He's a guy that I was fading in a lot of drafts going into the season. Greg was fading him as well. Oh, absolutely.
I know he was.
And look at what happened after he got hurt last year. Look at his games after he got hurt.
Look. I'm fading him again this week.
That's okay.
The reason I'm fading him again this week is because they're going against a Tennessee Titan who they've allowed 100 yards per game rushing on the ground, but they are a tough defensive line when it comes down to it. And right now, the offensive line in Miami is not doing so hot. They just got their second string quarterback injured last week. Now they're going to bring in a third string possibly, and Tim Boyle or dare I say even Tyler Huntley coming into the mix. This is a situation where the Tennessee Titans are going to be like, okay, go ahead and stop us with the run. Let's see what you can do. They're going to stack boxes. There's going to be a scenario for Devon Achane where he could get some catches. That's what he does. He's going to get those types of games. But I am predicting him to fall outside of the top 25 this week. I think that he has another game similar to last week where he had about 60 yards total. I think that he gets that again this week, and you're going to be looking elsewhere for Devon Achane.
I will say this. Mike McDaniel's coaching is going to be tested this week.
It's been tested. It's been tested ever since the Tua injury was gone. Last week we saw a scenario where Tyreek Hill didn't touch the ball. Tyreek Hill is a guy that you have to give him the ball in all circumstances, and he did not touch the ball enough for me. Mike McDaniel was getting frustrated. That Seattle Seahawks defense is tough, by the way, so we got to understand that. But look, I will say this: the Tennessee Titans defense got a good defensive line. That's the same thing Seattle defense had, and they've got a good back end. That's the same thing Seattle defense has as well. So they're going to try to maintain Tyreek Hill as best they can, Jalen Waddle as best they can, and just really focus in on this run game. Because if they get the run game going, that's when you can also start doing things with Tyreek Hill as well. So they're going to be focused on stopping that run game. And one last thing. If Raheem Mostert, who practiced in a limited fashion today, if he comes back, that's just another reason why you're going to see, for me, Devon Achane is going to be one of those guys where now we're back to square one. We don't know how many he's going to get. I know at the beginning of the season, Raheem Mostert didn't touch the ball as much, but maybe he was a little bit injured. Maybe that chest injury that he has now, he was trying to tough it out, wasn't able to. That's why he missed the last couple of games. So I think that once Raheem Mostert comes back, then you got Jalen Wright. It's again, now we're getting into this three-headed monster that I just don't want to be a part of.
Fair enough. I think a chance they're going to finish inside the top 24. And the reason why he'll get there is because he's going to get catches out the backfield. Against Tennessee's defense, this is what you have to do. Check down City. He's going to get the ball behind the line of scrimmage. You said the offensive line's bad. I expect a lot of screens. I expect a lot of quick passes. And Tyler Huntley starting, he's going to be able to run the ball potentially. And then if he does, that opens up lanes for other guys. And that potentially opens up the play action passes. That opens up comeback routes for Tyreek Hill. So there's a lot that could go right in this situation. And of course, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's definitely, what do we say? Anyway, can't remember the word, but it's a situation that this could easily go wrong, but I could see the situation go potentially right. And this game could definitely hit the over. I think the over is right now, 40 something. It could potentially hit the over. So for all you
we'll see what happens on Monday night. I'm taking the under on this one. Both offenses are in shambles to me. Both offenses are struggling. And then if you add a third string quarterback to the mix, it's just I just don't see a situation where that there's going to be a lot of points in the
over right now.
Yeah, I think take the under on that one, man. All right, so the next segment that we have is Put Me In, Coach. These are players or sleepers that we feel like are going to pop off this week. They're going to finish inside the top 12. They're going to do really well. So we want to get from you each one of those. Let's try to keep this down to 2 minutes because we went a little long on the back and forth. So let's try to keep these about the 2 minutes because we do have one last segment. So, Greg, tell us who is your Put Me In coach this week.
8.58, 15.14, 21.04. Again, notice the trend. Aaron Rodgers scoring. Took him a while to get back. Yeah. Last week, he looked like the old Aaron Rodgers. He reminded Green Bay. That's right, the Jets. He reminded Green Bay of the, Green Bay fans of what Aaron was in Green Bay. And I got to tell you, he's at quarterback 13, so he qualifies. He's outside of the normal range of starters for us. It's kind of like cheating to me because he's playing at home against the Broncos. Now, Denver's been very good against passes, but, Patty Surtain can only cover one guy. And the Jets have 3 players with over 11 or more receptions already in 3 games. Plus, they finally found out that they have a tight end named Tyler Conklin, and he caught 5 balls last week and looked really good doing it. So, and, Breece Hall's great out of the backfield, but even Braylon Allen in his times, he's already caught, a 30-yard receiving touchdown? Mm-hmm. He can certainly get it done. There's just too many tools for Denver to stop Rodgers. Rodgers will make the top 12 this week.
All right. And there's also maybe a little revenge factor too with the coach, the OC going back and playing against his former team that he coached at Denver. And that could be something that we want to look at as well. Connor, let's go to you.
Yeah, so real quick, my guy is Rico Dowdle, and if you want to start him this week, you got to flip him in right now. I'd put him in a running back spot, so that way if one of your running backs currently in there, you can move him to flex, and if he's questionable like a Bijan and he's not going to go, you have the optionality to put in. So I'd put in Rico Dowdle as a running back, and I think people are down on him because he wasn't an exciting prospect. In 4 years at South Carolina, he had 2,100 rushing yards. You put that in comparison, Ollie Gordon in one season as a sophomore had 1,700, right? So the production wasn't there. His freshman year, he actually had his most rushing yards of all of college, and he hasn't had a lot of opportunity. In week 1, he wasn't starting. Week 2, he started, but the game script wasn't there. And again, in week 3, the game script wasn't there. I think the game script's there tonight. He should get more than 8 carries, which is his season high. The Vegas line is 9.5. I like him for about 12, and I think he gets in the end zone. So I'd start Rico Dowdle this week.
All right. Well, for me, it's going to be JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is a situation where Detroit is one of the top teams. There is the top team in stopping the run right now. You cannot run on this team, but you can sure damn well pass on this team. They're averaging over 236 yards per game to opposing wide receivers. So this is a big get-right game for JSN. DK Metcalf has already been having his get-right games, but I think DK Metcalf is in line for a good one as well. You can see Noah Fant. This might be one of those games that's a higher scoring game this week. It is a Monday night game as well, so it's prime time. They want to show out. So I think that JSN, that he's going to do a lot of work against Greg's Detroit Lions. And I think
one quick thing, Noah Fant has gone from being healthy to questionable on today's injury report.
Okay. Yeah. So look, those reports, you see those the West Coast teams, their reports do come out a little bit later, but we got to monitor his report tomorrow. If he does not practice tomorrow or is limited, we definitely got to keep that and monitor those things. But I will say this, JSN is a smash start this week for me. Nick, who you got?
Najee Harris, Steelers. He's, if you've been betting his rushing prop like I have over the last 3 weeks, if you've been betting his rushing prop over the last 3 weeks, he's hit the over every single time. 52.5 right now on most sports books right now. Definitely take the over again. I think the Steelers can find themselves in a situation where they are up in this game, and that includes more carries for Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren is questionable right now. Harris hasn't hit the top 16 for running backs yet, but he has an opportunity to do that and then some. Potentially a 2-touchdown performance in this one. going against Indianapolis, who in Indianapolis, like besides last week, they've been looking, weird against the run. So I expect
they're playing Chicago. Chicago just abandons the run.
They do. And that's what happens. But Steelers, they're gonna keep on running the football. They can make this a really boring game, but Harris is definitely gonna get there, especially if Jalen Warren's out for sure.
Yeah, no, I love the call. All right, so our last segment is always a fun one. Greg always comes up with these cool this day in history, and this day. And in this day in history, September 26, 1908, engineers found the first oil field in the Middle East. The discovery is in Iran and was a major impact to the country's and the world's regional economic and political necessities in Iran. So we're going to talk to you guys about who is going to be your slipperiest running back in week 4. So, Connor, we're going to go to you first. Who is your slipperiest running back in week 4?
So, my guy is Bucky Irving, and we talked about the missed tackles forced with Gus Edwards being at 0. Bucky Irving is at 33%. So, every 1 in 3 touches, he's making a guy miss. I think he's going to make a couple guys miss. They've already talked about extending his workload. I know he's questionable, but if he goes, I think he's going to give us a fun run.
Greg?
Well, Detroit. I'm going, slippery can mean different things to different people, but to me, it means elusive. And I don't think there's a more elusive running back in the NFL right now than my boy, Jahmyr Gibbs. So for me, Gibbs is my personal elusive master. I love Jahmyr Gibbs.
All right, Nick, we knew you were going to put a Detroit Lion in there. Nick, who do you got?
I got Saquon Barkley. I want Saquon Barkley to keep shutting the people up that said that he wasn't going to be something this upcoming fantasy season in terms of being a first-round draft pick, second-round draft pick, whatever. I want Barkley to shut the haters up. I expect him to, if anything, if he doesn't break a decent run this week, he's going to take a catch and run. And you see what happened this past week against the Saints, carved them up. I expect Barkley to consistently do that this week again.
And Barkley has an upcoming game against his old team.
He sure does.
Whoa, I think that game there looks
Take on the
all of MetLife better be on alert that day because there might be a cataclysmic, catastrophic. I'm telling you, Saquon is going to
week 1 repeat. It could be a week 1 repeat of 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it could be something crazy.
4, yeah.
And Saquon Barkley, I saw an interview with him. He's such a nice guy. He won't say it, but you can see in his eyes, he's ready to just mess them up.
You mean he doesn't keep a list like Amon-Ra of everybody that was drafted?
I'm pretty sure Saquon's got a list.
I love Amon-Ra, by the way.
Because they disrespected Saquon the way that they did that too. If you guys watch Hard Knocks, it was pretty. I thought it was pretty disrespectful the way he found out. But for me, my slipperiest running back is Alvin Kamara. And look, we all know what Alvin Kamara brings to the table. He's one of the best when it comes to contact balance, running the football. He's going against a Falcons team, which he kind of struggles against, actually. He only has 3 touchdowns against this Falcons team. But we're not talking about how many touchdowns you're going to get, how many points you're going to get. We're talking about slipperiest runs. And Alvin Kamara is always a good bet to be slippery in the backfield. You think that he's down, he lost about 3-4 yards, and all of a sudden he's running down the sideline, and you're like, where did he go? Alvin Kamara is notorious for that. And I think that he gets away with one this week against Atlanta.
It's been a great show, Tipp. You did really well.
Well,
Nick,
thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Nick, thank you. Sully, thank you so much for appearing. We'll have to get you guys back on in the off season because we only have during the season 1 appearance each. But
now we do have definitely want you guys back. We do have a few minutes before the show is over with. Nick, tell us again where they can find you. We already see your handle, your Twitter handle. Tell us some of the podcasts you got going on, and then the same with you, Connor. But we'll get with you first, Nick. What do you have going on?
Yeah, so me and my guy Johnny, you guys also met at the expo. We got our show, The Fantasy Football Show, so DA, The Fantasy Football Show on YouTube.
Wait, duh?
Yeah,
DUH.
like
Devon A. Chain's not going to do anything this week. You mean like that, right?
All right, I'm letting him eat your words for him. All right, we'll see.
Hey, you learn to live with it when you work with him.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but honestly, like, watch when A-Chan goes off this week on Monday, just for you, Tip.
Ask him how many Generations leagues he's won. He won't.
Right, Connor.
He doesn't like to talk about generations.
He doesn't like talking about it because he's frozen right now.
Sorry, what was it? I couldn't hear you guys. Say it again.
Oh, where can people find you? Connect with you.
So my handle on Twitter is CM Sully with a Y 22. To be honest, I don't post a lot, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If anybody liked the likely take and they want to know who to play, I like the Gesicki's, the Hunter Henrys. Hunter Henry leading his team in targets, and we already talked about Gesicki. But if you have any other questions, definitely DM me, and I'm happy to answer anything else.
But we want to thank you for coming on, Connor.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, Tip, who we got
Absolutely.
next week?
Next week we have, it's Mike Cash, Mike Kashuba. He's going to be Mike Kashuba is going to be on next week.
Do we have a Joe lined up?
Yes, we do have a Joe lined up as well. It is going to be my friend Jamie Tang. He's going to come and join us next week. Yep. Is
Jamie a female or a male?
He's a male.
Oh, too bad. I was hoping we could have a girl put you down.
No, Jamie will come on and put me down for sure. Him and I go a long way. As a matter of fact, he is one of the owners of Golden Watt Cognac. You guys may have saw my post that I put out there for him last night. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's going to be on and help us out. But I will double check on the pro. I believe it's Mike Kashuba, but I may have my week mixed up on that. But my weeks always get mixed up. But yeah. So other than that, guys, Iggy, JC, on behalf of Greg, Nick, and Connor, take us home, man. Thank you so much.
Michigan fight song, baby. I love this. Hey, give us a quick prayer. We're flying tomorrow through a hurricane.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Oh.
Sure.
Well, no, it's supposed to be done before we leave, but it's hitting us at 3 a.m. tonight.
Okay, for sure.
Be careful.
Well, pilot, be careful. I'm just riding. My life is in God's hands. I trust God.
True.